Yeah. So, well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I
Oh my
appreciate it.
gosh. Yes, thanks for having me. I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, me too. So let's get into it. I want to begin with COVID. I think we're all getting fatigued by it, but it was such a momentous thing for our lives. How did you survive it, and how did it change the way that you do things now?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like this is the new era. We need like a BCE equivalent, right? This is the after.
Yeah, yeah.
So my husband's an MRI tech.
Uh,
So he was in the hospital. It's just him and I, we don't have children, but that alone, I think even if I was completely insulated, it would have been, life changing as it was. Just with not knowing, do we sleep in the same room? Like what are we doing here? What's safe, what's not? Um, but the overarching theme was one, what do I want to do in life? Because things are more unexpected than I thought they were.
yeah.
um, and two, kind of a pause 2 years later on, oh my gosh, we survived, I think is the two big things that I'm still feeling now, like most of us. Um, I, like many, was working in corporate and had to make a decision overnight. How are we going to keep going? And so for a while, I would say the first solid year of COVID, it was just plugging holes. Like we were so busy, we didn't even have the time to really worry about it.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to say, very, very lucky. My husband and I both, neither of us lost anybody to COVID.
Yeah.
My grandmother was in the hospital for 3 months later on, about a year in, and that was really scary. But now this lady is, working on her farm and doing her thing. So we were, lightly touched. And now I think, I wouldn't be working for myself if it wasn't for the introspection that it
Yeah.
brought, like many of us. But we've been very, very lucky.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do for a
Sure.
living. On paper is one thing, but in reality, it's another. So to get to that, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day.
Love it.
One of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do
Hmm.
you answer them?
Yes, I help people who run businesses get their story out there so that all of us can learn about it. It's really marketing 101 is telling other people's stories and helping them make money.
So, what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Oh my gosh, what did I want to be? I don't know. I grew up really poor. This is like kind of dark. Sorry to take it dark so
It's
quickly.
okay. It's life.
I just wanted to survive. Like that was uh, a very early goal of mine was how do I get out of here? But then I also realized, looking back, that I also was pretty money driven at a young age, not in a toxic way, but in a when you don't have it
Yeah.
and you are like the other in school, you learn pretty quickly like I just want to fit in. I just want to be invisible almost to not being that kid.
Yeah.
And so that's sadly really what I remember. And then, later on, maybe not third grade, fifth grade, but by middle school, I knew I wanted to be involved in government and politics. That's what I studied in undergrad many moons
Okay.
ago. And actually, a lot of my clients are politicians now, which is really fun.
Yeah. So, what
Yeah.
were the seeds that were planted into you to have this interest not only in politics, but to tell people stories digitally? How did this kind of career timeline unfold into where you're at now?
Sure. This is so nerdy. It was Bush v. Gore in 2000. I remember walking through the grocery store. Any Texans listening, I was walking through HEB, which is our beloved grocery store, and I saw a Times cover, and it was a cartoon, so it caught my attention of a throne, and it was Bush and Gore kind of pushing each other to get the seat. And that, I don't know if it was because it was a cartoon and very well, drawn or what,
Yeah.
but I read the story and I thought, this is insane. Like, I don't know anything about our country. And, I was curious. And the more I learned, turning on the TV, just watching the news as a tween, That's the I can actually pinpoint, like that was the moment I realized this is some crazy stuff. Like I really want to learn more about this. Yeah.
And I think politically speaking, that was the beginnings of the Wild West. Like 9/11 was the precursor to COVID, everybody losing their minds. Like there was this like collective pall that was thrown over this la-di-da kind of life we were all living. And
Yes.
that was the beginning of it because I remember that night they announced that I think Gore won, or maybe it was Fox announced that Bush won. Something was announced, kind of like Truman holding the Dewey newspaper.
Yes.
And then everything just descended into chaos. It was the polling chads. It was the beginning of doubting electoral colleges and all of these votes and all of that. So that was it. That was the big
Yep.
bang of our political demise.
It
Well,
was.
not
And we've all
demise,
lost our mind
yeah,
since
the clownery that we're dealing with. It turned into, Barnum and Bailey's circus. So,
exactly. Yeah. And we're
yeah.
still living it. We're
Man.
still feeling all of those reverberations, right? It's wild.
So that's
Wild.
interesting that that cartoon was the nexus because the irony of that is that all of this has turned into a cartoon.
Literally, right.
Right.
Like we have, jumped through the painting and here we are.
That's it. Exactly. Life imitates art. So, who's been a hero? Going through the childhood and the dark times and everything that you've accomplished, who has been that motivator, that hero in your life?
Oh my gosh. Such a good question. I would say, the women in my life are so badass. I just, um, my sisters, my mom, just hustlers. It is impossible not to be inspired and to really, hold yourself accountable. Like, man, look at them doing it. My older sister, she has four boys. The oldest is 21 now. She has twins that are 19, and then the youngest just turned 16, which is crazy. Um, and my younger sister and I grew up nannying for her. So we learned really quickly how much work it is to be a mom.
Yeah.
And she's also in marketing, so it's no surprise that this is where I ended up seeing it firsthand.
Yeah.
Um, and just my mom and sister as well. My mom was a bartender. She raised us, working in restaurants, and that hustle and that inability to like succumb to fear or to a bill not being paid, the stress of raising children and paying the bills and working through toxic marriages is something I look back on and it just inspires me so much.
So if you could, whether it's a politician or just anybody that you find fascinating on the planet right now, if you could sit down and have a little time with anybody on the planet right now, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. I love Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
I think she's so classy. She's so strong. She doesn't let things get to her externally, at least. We don't see it. Amazing book. Um, and I'm fascinated that she does not want to run for office. I'm not
Yep.
surprised, right? It's toxic and horrible. But man, I know she has some stories that she's
Oh
not
yeah.
sharing. I want to hear them. I want to hear them so bad. And, her marriage as well. I think that that's um, always a struggle. It's amazing having a two income household, but that level of visibility and that level of obviously the presidential office, like moving all the way up into that after building careers together for so long. I just have so many questions. How did you do it and not divorce? like,
Yeah.
I just want to know all the things, political and personal. Like she's amazing.
Well, I mean, obviously their bond is strong enough. I mean, that's the thing, because I read the book too, and
Mm-hmm.
and I find it interesting that for a little while there, where everything was kind of waffling, everybody was saying she's going to come in. It's like you guys haven't read the book. There's
Exactly.
unequivocally no way towards
There's
the
no way.
end. The way
Yeah.
that she worded it and the way that she went through it, like the turning point in the book for me, and I think for her and both of them, and they probably haven't expressed it enough, was when that brick went through the window. That was
Yes.
when the game
Oh,
stopped.
just give me the shivers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was when it was like, all right, this lunatic is inciting all of this madness, and we're
Yep.
not going to be a part of it,
It's not
you
worth
know?
it.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's not worth it. Um, so what is the motivation for you? What is it that gets you going every day? Because you're not only telling a story, you have to give a lot of yourself to get that story to be out there. And you obviously enjoy the art of storytelling, but you also have to hold enough back to evolve as a human being yourself and etch your own story. What's that collective gas in your tank every day?
Yes, my gosh. It's so true. You have to give a lot of yourself and marketing, working with small businesses especially. I identify so deeply with the struggle, for so long, especially when you first get into, entrepreneurship, you are really just trying to make sure you can pay your bills. Like it really comes down to that. And that's stressful. I'm sure like trying to get things off the ground. Um, and maintain, a semi-comfortable lifestyle is a whole thing. So, identify with that. And that alone feels so good to be able to help other people and to encourage them. But you really are a cheerleader and a problem solver. And, there's so much of what I do whenever I'm going into like onboarding meetings with businesses where, maybe they do need marketing, but they actually need a project manager or maybe a personal assistant or there's
Yeah,
just so many other you're consulting, it's the business consultant role up front digging in.
yeah,
um and I love it. I told you I'm a very curious person, so I ask a lot of questions, and that's what you need. But I get myself into trouble sometimes biting off more than marketing.
yeah,
um but what fills my tank is now being in a place where I'm personally able to start scaling my business. I'm bringing on other people, I'm working on other marketing programs. I'm able to do a little bit more. I'm really able to focus on my values. And I feel like this has been something, this is the reason that I, initially left corporate world, was because I didn't feel like my values were aligned anymore. But even then, I had to put it to the side because I had to figure out how to pay my bills. And so now I'm at the place where I can really build things for others. And at the same time, I can, work into my own operations. Who am I hiring to bring this on? Um, what am I paying them? How can I really build cultures of trust and transparency and ownership, and build a team that I want to be a part of and they want to stay with me forever. And then share that with the businesses that we're partnering with, like getting really, really picky about being able to partner with others that are like-minded.
yeah,
It feels good, and it feels bigger than myself. Like this
yeah.
is something we should all be doing. So that's it for me.
So you've mentioned cat a couple times, or cat, I'm sorry, curiosity, and you have the
Mhm.
perfect first name, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's it. The cats are curious. So,
Exactly.
and you have a dog. Is that your dog back there?
Oh my
I
gosh,
saw.
yes.
I
I'm gonna
love
have
it.
to share. It's so crazy. I have two.
Oh, I love it. I totally love it.
They're
We have
crazy.
animals all over the house. We have cats and dogs, and they're sprawled all over the place. Like they
Best.
had a
This is their
bender, and
house.
what's
Yeah.
that?
It's their house, right?
That's it.
Like,
Right, right.
yeah.
They had a bender, and they're sleeping it off, and they're like, "Just leave me alone."
Exactly.
So, so what was the first time or client that you worked with where you saw it in their eyes that what you were doing made sense, and you thought, "I found my purpose. This is what I need to do. I'm in."
I would say there's two. One of them that I took on really early. So my niche in marketing is taking really complex topics, um, and helping my clients kind of dilute them into a way that the masses can understand. So I work with a lot of doctors, a lot of politicians, a lot of therapists, a lot of really nerdy people that are really, really into what they're doing. And then it's really hard to translate that to other people that maybe aren't as nerdy.
Uh,
So
uh,
that's where the curiosity, helps, because I love to learn. And very early on, I had a healthcare provider who very successful, was doing plastic surgery, doing a lot of women's health like specialties, including some that like I had suffered from and been underdiagnosed from. And I started working with him, and just seeing in the data things that were spiking, different keywords. Marketing's all about your search engine optimization, like getting your websites to rank. And obviously, then you want that to cause people to come to your website and then book appointments with you. And it had been maybe 3 or 4 months, and something magic just happened. We hit our stride, and you could see in the data these like huge jumps year over year. And that was all I really needed. It was, like a drug,
Yeah.
like they were excited. I was excited. It was a fast follow of like, okay, what did we do that worked? Like, let's go find it.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that like dopamine hit of
Yeah.
like, yes, like eureka, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then it feels so good because they're small businesses and that is money in their pocket.
Yeah.
So just like you have to give a lot of yourself to them, early on to really encourage them, you get to celebrate those wins
Yeah.
too, which is it's so fun.
Yeah.
um and then about a year in, I was really focused on healthcare because I was getting a lot of word of mouth clients, so that's just how it happened. But about a year in, I started branching out into politics and the legal field. And that was the next moment where I realized, oh my gosh, I like there are no rules. I can go and do this for anybody. Marketing is huge, like go figure. And everybody needs this. So I can go into fields that I'm passionate about. Um, and I mean, it's an election year, so this is especially timely, but I can go into fields that are impacting the country and the world and have a hand in it indirectly. It's that whole what's the phrase? Like be a kingmaker and not a king. Like I
Yeah.
don't have to run for office.
Sure.
I don't have to put myself in the spotlight. Michelle Obama taught us, that's a
Yeah.
lot. But I can help in
Yeah.
different ways. And that was the next big moment of wow, I can really make this whatever I want it to be and do some real good and have fun while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The idea like that viral adrenaline that you're talking about, it's a weird modern phenomenon. And I was reading a book and I can't remember what it was, but it was about how things go viral, the psychology of things. And it went
Mm.
all the way back to Monet, like how they would let people know that they had paintings and they had these shows, just way back in the antiquitous times before newspapers and all of this, and how word spread. And just the
Yeah.
mystery of how it just kind of became this thing. Yet Van Gogh, who was probably seen as one of the most popular guys, was basically in the loony bin for most of his
Yes.
life, or getting his ear sliced off in a fight with Gauguin. But it's like, how does that happen? How do these people go viral? Just like Obama's campaign. Like no
Mm-hmm.
one really thought until the Iowa primary came up that that was going to ignite. And then all of a sudden the next morning, all these news outlets are like, we've never seen a crowd that big. And then it was
Yep.
on. Then it was the whole thing started. Kind of like this year with everything. Like after the
Yes.
debate, everybody's like Biden's got to exit. And then when Harris came in, I'm thinking that might not be where we want to go. And then all of a sudden, same thing with
Boom.
Obama. Yeah. It's like everybody woke up.
Crazy.
But I really feel like
So sorry.
that. No, no, you're good. They got to get it out.
They do. I'm so
And
sorry.
no, you're good. So the thing that's interesting is that I think this election is going to be totally, absolutely decided by women.
Yeah.
Women have been pushed around. I mean, you talk about everybody with their rights getting revoked. Women, it's the most egregious. I mean, just basic health care in Mississippi, basic rights for a rural town in Tennessee. I think people aren't understanding what kind of war is being waged against the females of this country right now. And I hope to
Yeah.
God it gets flooded at
Yeah.
election time because that's going to decide it.
It's going to be so delicious to watch, I
Oh
think.
my God.
I mean, I'm really really trying to not do what we all did in 2016 and think like, oh, there's no way. Look, we got this in the bag. I'm really really trying to not, but the other part of me is so excited. It's going to be so fun.
What they say, those that don't learn from history will repeat it. And
Right.
that's and I think the big thing that I think about that Thomas Jefferson said is we get the rulers we deserve, and we don't deserve that again.
Yes, exactly. And I think maybe we did deserve it at the time, right? Like, shame on us, shame on the DNC. Like, I mean, shame on all of us collectively for being so hands off as well. I think, I'm no advocate for violence when I say this, but I do think we are getting to, French Revolution territory of, you're not giving us a choice, but to really mandate what we want, right? And I
Yep.
think either side can argue this, and in truth, I'm very anti two-party system, so it's not
Yeah.
even about that. But it is we cannot be complacent, and we've proven that to ourselves. We've got to like hold each other accountable
Yep.
to making sure we don't deserve that anymore.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well, the one thing I think, and I was telling my stepdaughter this, who's 18 now, I said, I may not be around to see this, but I think what's going on right now is going to be the template for what we never ever want to inject into our democracy again. It will be like, because everybody's like, why? Why is this happening? And it's going to be that moment that says, do you want to go where Rome went? Or do you want
mm,
to go where this vision of America was supposed to have gone to way back in the beginning? So
exactly.
that's the Ralph Waldo Emerson fork in the road right now.
Yes, exactly. And it is really fascinating. I mean, talking about knowing your history, you go back, like, think of an empire that is still here besides the UK. Those are some shrewd, shrewd people that figured out mostly what to do.
Yeah.
But, they're struggling with this, a lot of the same things we are. They have their own versions of fascists and some crazies popping up, right?
Yep.
Um, and you can't really think. I mean, sure, France has been along forever, but they don't have the same territories they had. They don't have any ownership in the US. Rome crashed, the Ottoman Empire, right? Like, it is really fascinating to say we are babies, a couple
Oh,
hundred
yeah.
years old. We're nobody. Who do we think we are?
But yeah, who do you think
Right?
you are?
Exactly. My husband and I just went to Mexico City last week, and it was one of those moments like, oh my gosh, looking at this crazy city. The Aztecs were similar to us, and that they really quickly became powerful
Yep.
and stayed in power for a while, right? A couple hundred years. And then boom, they collapsed. And a lot of other tribes actually were the ones that helped them,
Yep.
be taken over. So nobody's immune to this. And
Nope.
I don't know who we think we are.
I know. Who do you think you are? So of everything that you've done and accomplished and overcome and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
The proudest, man. To be honest, I am proud that I left to do something on my own.
Yeah.
I was in corporate for 10 years. I mentioned, young cat being really money driven, or really it's financial security driven, I should say. And taking that leap after over a decade, saying goodbye to a salary and benefits, and walking away to do something on my own without a clear plan, which is just very out of character for me. I just can't believe I did it. I really can't. It's been, almost 3 years and still pretty early in the game, but, I'm doing well and I'm scaling well, and it feels totally surreal. Um, and I think, that's what I'm still in disbelief on, that, I'm actually making it happen.
Yeah.
And I think most entrepreneurs can agree with that, right? Like
Sure.
that self-doubt runs deep, but you
Yep.
do it anyway. And,
Mhm.
it's my biggest accomplishment for sure.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you. But what's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who do I think I am? I mean, the truth of it is, I'm a bit of a mess, but it's self-imposed.
Right.
I am not capable of picking one thing. It's not in my DNA. I'm not programmed to just focus on one thing, one project. I can't do it. I find everything interesting, and certainly I'll pick, because I still have to pay the bills and, be a good partner. I certainly will pick, a focus to work on, in marketing, for example. But um, I am just a forever student who finds learning fascinating. And I feel like the more I dig into things, these hyperfixation, the more I learn about myself. Like, that's really, when I think about myself, I think about, just being a little nerdy student, kind of dabbling in the world and exploring it. I was just telling somebody, I get so frustrated that that's not standard anymore. We're talking, polymaths, Benjamin Franklin. It was so common to be an inventor and be
Yep.
involved in politics and, like, have all of these different passions. And somewhere down the line, we just decided, nope, you need to focus on one thing. You need to be a plumber. You need to be,
Yeah.
a businesswoman. You need to, it's just, I don't buy into that.
I know.
And I think that might be my overarching purpose is to like break that mold and to tell people like, dude, we made those rules and we don't need them.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want.
Uh-huh. That's
So
the
a
thing.
rule breaker might be the the term for myself.
The true entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when I was in college, there was a woman that was in my poetry class. She was probably in her 70s, and we were all going around saying what we wanted to be, what we wanted to do when we grew up. And she was like, I don't want to grow up. I don't ever want to grow up. And I found how
Love that.
profound that is because that's the thing. And the poet Charles Bukowski once said, we're born geniuses and buried idiots. We put all these walls around us. And when you start
Yes.
doing that, you suffocate the plants.
That is
So
so true. Gosh,
be,
that's profound.
be
I totally
careful.
agree. Exactly.
So if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yes. So I will be putting on a ton of free webinars over the next month. So go to either profesh.com
Mhm.
and you can reach out to me directly. You can find me on my socials and I'll make sure I give you those links. Or you can go to emailrevamp.com and sign up for the waitlist for the webinars.
Okay. Kat, this has been wonderful. Thank
Hey,
you so
so much
much.
fun.
Keep that spirit going. We need it.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.